Hello, and welcome back to another week of European Tour picks and bets on Mayo Media Network. Week one of the 2022 season, and we have a winner. Tom Jacobs, excellent selection with Thomas Peters. How did that feel?
It felt good until you committed the cardinal sin just then. What did you do? You just went European Tour, picks and bets.
I did it right off the jump. I was so good last week too. I was trying to think, okay, welcome to the DP World Tour picks and bets. Tom Jacobs, 1 for 1 in the 2022 season.
That sounds better. Yeah.
Okay.
I was extremely nervous yesterday. I'd written it off after 10 holes, 11 holes when he went, because he should have, was it 9 that was the par 5 or 10? And he should have basically made par on the par 5, and then he missed a short putt on the birdie on the par 4, then parred the par 5, and I was like, that's it. Like, that's him done. Like, he's going to go and make a double somewhere down the back 9. And but no, to be fair to Thomas Peters, his resolve was really good. I think, like I said before, I think it's going to be a big year for him, and I think that showed a lot of character. And I think it helped that Hovland kind of went the wrong way on his own, and it was Sharma and Cabrera Bello as opposed to, Morikawa and Hovland or Rory or whatever. But yeah, well, I think what we said about the course being a new course made it a bit more volatile, and it did. And I don't think we're going to see all of those people back next year.
Yeah, interesting takes on Yas Links. From a viewing standpoint, loved it. That's.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, from a golfer side of it, of course, I think you could see some visible frustration. Tyrrell Hatton's comments afterwards, especially about 18, were quite funny. But yeah, I think overall that brings out a lot of vulnerability, to your point, of what can happen on the odds board. I mean, Peters, of course, was still one of the top 15 golfers in the field last week, but Sharma, Jameson, RCB, those type of golfers that were hanging around were
Morrison was up there for a while.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So that brings a little bit different test than what we see. Of course, the elements played in. The fact, Friday was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I'll take that though every week. I enjoy that style of test. But yeah, overall, I think it was a great first week back. Maybe this one will be more of a straightforward test that we see most weeks overall. But really happy for you, man. That's a big win to get off. And you were kind of on an island. You were one of the rare ones over there for Peters, and a lot of takes across social media about Ryder Cup, betting him in majors, going to be a force. That shouldn't have changed just because of his biggest win of his career. We always knew he had that in him. So kudos to you being on that selection.
Thanks, buddy. And I think we were kind of saying that towards the end of last season, right? Like, you were on him. I think you were early on him, right? And you were trying to get him before this kind of happened, because it's been 2 wins in 3 starts. And, it was a Portugal Masters where he won, which actually coincidentally links to this week. And yeah, like, there's going to be Masters tickets out there next week, which is fine. Like, I think that's where he probably belongs, right? And definitely the Ryder Cup. So yeah, looking forward to another week.
Absolutely. And with that, we stay in the UAE. We're going over to the Slink.io Dubai Desert Classic. Again, DP World Tour. We're having all these sponsors mixed in, new names left and right, keeping us on our toes. But back to a familiar course in Emirates Golf Club. What's your breakdown of the course? Kind of what are you looking at for the week?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a very familiar course, right? It's been around for, as long as most of these golfers have been playing. In terms of tests, it's nearly 7,500 yards, par 72. I never really think that much into the actual layout itself. I think that, I think most different golfers can compete here as long as you've got, good driving and good ball striking in the way, which is, most weeks. But yeah, I think it generally, again, seems to go to one of the better players, which was what was meant to happen last week, but on a different course it changed. But you know what you're getting here, right? You know who normally wins. Rory McIlroy's won here. Paul Casey last year, Sergio Garcia a few years before that, Henrik Stenson, Stephen Gallagher. There's been people that have won here that you wouldn't expect. But Hao Tong Lee we spoke about last year, obviously, has been here as well. So it's been an eclectic mix, but they're just generally sort of stay out of the top draw. So I wouldn't like to pigeonhole any one goal for him because of the people that we've seen recently, but I think it's just very much goes to the form golfer.
Yeah, and in some ways it's tough to judge form a little bit as well, because we've only seen one test of a golf course, and especially doesn't relate here. We had a few guys play in Hawaii, but will be interesting because we do see a rollover of about 80% of the field from last week. We're recording this Monday afternoon, so the odds are fully out. We don't have any DraftKings pricing as we start off the show. But that same trio starting up top, Rory, Hovland, and Morikawa, we see a flip between Victor and Colin this week in the odds market, probably due to the performance of last week. Again, from a betting perspective, I know neither of us really touching much here. I think maybe the emphasis you put on just having the longest of the three might be the best way to play it, or the cheapest three on DraftKings. Worked out for Victor last week. If that's going to be Colin, I feel like that's definitely kind of where my foot would be.
You just can't go wrong, right? I think that's just the easiest thing to do, because the way the odds suggest and the way you think about these golfers, that all three are going to be involved on Sunday. So why not just take the guy that's the longest odds, and if one of them does badly like they did last week, well, two of them really. I mean, Rory and Morikawa are both really struggling, and Rory is right behind the eight ball, and it was only one last day where he was really good. And I didn't like a lot of what Rory said. Like, he was moaning about, he tried to say he wasn't moaning, but he put a 3-iron in the bag, and he said, no, it wasn't quite right, and I wasn't hitting it right. And I was like, look, you've had all off season to choose your irons. Like, why are you trying to hit a 3-iron? He's like, I knew it had a left in it. Why are you hitting it then? Hit something completely different. He just doesn't, and he was moaning that he didn't get to hit a full shot. He wants to do that this week, and that kind of shows a bit of a weakness to me. Like, he's meant to be one of the most naturally talented golfers in the world, which he is. You can play and knock down a shot in a bit of wind. So it was that concerned me a bit. He'll probably come back here. He's obviously played well here in the past. I'm quite happy to leave all three alone.
Yeah, I agree with the Rory takes. It's something that frustrates me with his game, and just kind of following overall is that is like the side of being like what Shane Lowry is in those type of conditions, and like, knucks up and he's ready to go, and whatever happens, you'll figure it out. Like that, just I don't see that side of it.
And the problem with it is it looks like he's had a 12th place finish on the board, and it's like, great, Rory's in great form again. And I'm like, yes, okay, he came out and won the CJ Cup, and then he's been pretty average since. And he had that chance at the DP World and just was terrible, ripped his shirt, whatever, showed a bit of character. And I want him to be good. Like, I think the way I come across sometimes is I'm against Rory McIlroy. It's not. I just find him incredibly frustrating. Like, he's meant to be the European answer to Tiger Woods, and that is a ridiculous barometer, first of all, to put on someone. But this guy hasn't won the major for, what is it now, 6 years, 7 years? And it shows. Like, it really does show. I read a quote about saying something like kind of getting rich and not caring anymore. And I think there is an element of that. I think the hunger has gone away, and I think he realised at the Ryder Cup. I think that's why he was so upset. And everyone just kind of took that as like, oh, he's going to come out firing, and it hasn't really been the case. So I will pass on Rory this week, despite the fact he's a two-time winner on a golf course.
Yep, he's going to get to hit those full shots. He's going to be back to what he likes. So we'll see. The mid-range, I think, is full of golfers you can all make cases for once again. Tyrrell had some really good ball striking. If it wasn't for the 9 on Saturday, right, on 18, he pars that, he wins. So it's crazy to look at, him. He definitely had a pullback in odds down to 18. Sergio, 22 was the longest odds, who's had some great history here. And then we go in the trio of Paul Casey, the winner of this event last year, Thomas Pieters, last week's winner, and then Shane Lowry back, who odds-on favorite, who couldn't have played much worse on Sunday. So I think that whole bunch there, sub 30-1, has some interesting golfers. Is there anybody you wanted to put any money on?
I'm tempted by Sergio, right? I think that he always kind of grabs my attention in these fields. As you said, a former winner here, 3rd and 6th in 2 of the last 3 years. But Paul Casey was interesting because he played terribly. I don't know how much people followed of it, but he played terribly for the first 2 rounds in Singapore, right? Or the first round. And he rallied well to make the cut. Is that going to help him? I don't know. You know, he won here last year after what was like a 6-year absence, and there was a top 10 before that. So I never know quite what to expect from Paul Casey. But no, I've gone further down the board for me.
Yeah, I think sticking with a hot hand, I can't wait to go back to Thomas Peters, probably in a DraftKings perspective.
Yeah.
Really get into him. Like, again, it's really difficult. I think I end up making a lot of selections, building out my lineups. Just a lot more of my stances come in the lower range where we're on and we load up our betting cards a lot more, where you can, any of these guys can probably play quite well, and I wouldn't be shocked. I think this next 4 or 5 golfers probably stands out to where many betting cards will begin this week. Adam Scott showed quite well. Putter kind of put it down. He had a late 3 putt that didn't end up placing any each ways for him, which was probably frustrating for some backers. Tommy Fleetwood, I might have to put up that never again bet, as I expect to wake up Friday morning to him fully in contention, only to see the 4 over in the wind. It was back to scratching his way to make a cut.
And that's meant to be his strength, right? That's the concerning thing. Like you put him in because of the potential for that. Like as soon as you heard the forecast wind on Friday, it's like Tommy Fleetwood. He fits the bill course-wise. He fits the bill in the wind, and he didn't do it. And again, I don't want to go down the same track I do with Rory McIlroy and just sort of dig out a guy, but he has been disappointing for a little while now.
Yeah, totally agree. But a couple guys that we really like next up here. I will let you begin with the next golfer on the odds board.
Yeah, so I really do think that Bernd Wiesberg is worth looking into. I don't quite know whether I want to play him yet or not, but I think his form here is probably been overlooked, right? He's got 3 top 10s here. He was 6th last year when he was 4th in 2015, I think it was, when Rory won. He was the round 1 leader, and he hit the ball well, right? Last week, he was 8th in tee to green, 14th in approach, and I think we're just missing him a little bit. Like, this is a guy that we've been on and said that he was sort of overlooked before, 18 to 1 even, and now he was nearly 33, 34 to 1 earlier, coming down to 28s and 30s now, but I think he was worth talking about.
Yeah, he's someone that I struggle to get right, and I think he is just a golfer. When the number is too long, you can absolutely bet on him because he's almost got a little bit of a Patrick Reed in him, it feels like, in the sense of that number drifts to a certain point and just becomes bettable because of what he can do in that increased iron game down the stretch. I think he can carry that over another big year. I am leaning Ian Poulter for me in this range. See him as long as 40 to 1. He's going to be where I'm on. We see him 6th place to open up the year, right in the mix early on to start the week. And then, he finished that year in this part of the world again with a 6th place finish as well. Opening 66 and then just never really got as much going the rest of the week. But he just has that, I don't know, innate ability that I love to contend. I know it's been a while, seeing him in the actual winner's circle, but consistency of his game versus kind of what the others are in this range. We definitely touted him as somebody in DraftKings that was way too cheap last week. I just think he's kind of falling in that range. Once again, you're paying up a little bit more, but 40 to 1 for me feels pretty good. And again, that location ability or location form that you love looking at, I think is very strong here.
I think personally he again is overlooked. Like, he will be where I definitively start my bets as well. 15th, 6th, 3rd, 16th here, and a miscut. 2 6th place finishes, current form, like you said. 11th in tee to green last week. And when you look at, well, he didn't have that, you mentioned, didn't he, that he had the kind of 66 and never really kicked on from there. But he was one of the guys that just didn't blow up. Like, everyone else was kind of going for the 74, 75, 77 day, and he was just steady throughout the week. And he did in the wind what we expected the likes of Fleetwood, what you want Rory to do, and things like that. So I thought that he was really impressive. And although he didn't go low on the Sunday and really push and contend, I do think he can do that here.
Yeah, he's just somebody I love backing him. He's just a fun one to root for and continue to bring that emotion. Next on, as we continue through, Lucas Herbert former winner here in that year where we got really windy, where he beat Bezaden Hoop. I think Eric Van Rooyen will be somebody I'm targeting in DraftKings. Him and that mustache have shown some decent form through it. But then, as we get a little bit deeper, I think there's a few other guys that make a lot of sense as well. Is there anybody here that you are eyeing?
So for me, my next bet would be, I don't know if we're quite going as far as this, but let's go with Lee Westwood, right? He has just been absolutely phenomenal at this golf course. I think he's got 2 seconds at this golf course, 3 seconds in the event in total, 7 top 10s at the golf course in total. And he was second last week tee to green and 6 strokes gained approach. So he struck the ball just beautifully, right? And we know with Lee Westwood that most of the time is his game, right? That he hits his driver and irons really, really well, and you just have to wait for the putts to drop. He was kind of putting that narrative to one side of late, which is why we saw the victories that we saw. But yeah, 17th last year, 50th wasn't great before that, but 7th only 3 years ago. It's been recent enough that I think he can come back to this golf course and contend again.
Yeah, he was the one that jumped out at me this morning. Somebody that we didn't really want to venture into, really last week. It was kind of that wait and see approach with Westwood. But yeah, those strokes gain numbers were terrific. Really, really good approach. And yeah, I think that location, there's enough in there. He's historically came out a little bit hot out of the gates the last couple of years in this area of the world. If you look what his last few finishes would be here, you had mentioned overall
I think just like he looked like he was burnt out towards the end of the year, right? He genuinely looked like, and I just wondered whether we'd seen the last of him really contending like he was last year. Like he had a second at Bay Hill, second at the Players. He was coming off those wins on the DP World Tour at Abu Dhabi in 2020. I kind of wondered and worried for him a little bit. He just got married. Maybe he was turning his focus to the future, looking at his son who's obviously getting his golf as well, which is all good and fine. And he just comes back and does what he does last week. And you just think, okay, he's still got it, like 70-69 over the weekend, tough conditions. Let's get him on a golf course he likes. And to your point, really good in the area and time of year.
Yep. I love it. I'm absolutely in with him. I took the risk with getting into Bob McIntyre last week, thinking exactly like Tommy in the sense of it should play into the elements. Incredibly disappointing miscut from Bob. He bogeyed the par 5 to finish to miss the cut on the number. Just something that, it just hasn't been there for him for any consistent sort of time. Going to let that be and end up laying with another golfer who can also be incredibly frustrating, and going with Audrey Arnaus. Audrey, somebody who, if you look through 54 holes of golf, wouldn't have thought much was intriguing of him last week. Goes out and shoots a Sunday 65, co-round of the day. Him and Henrik Stenson both shot that. Their best round was 67. So goes out early, gets that. And he has been historically, if you look just kind of on it, it's like as streaky can get. He will run together these top 10s in a row, and the next thing you know, it's falling off a cliff. So if he picks up some steam in the outright markets, we're going to see that number crash. It probably already has, down to 66s. I saw some 80s early this morning. But we know the sky high upside's there. It's the light version of some of the Peters, Min Woos that we've talked about. It's just getting over the line for the first time. And I'm willing to take that bet at the number when he has the history, that he does. If you look at his last 6 events in this area of the world, every single one of them inside the top 20, 5 of those 6 inside the top 12. So, just continuing without a ton of form that we have, maybe a little magic on Sunday carries over into something place that he feels incredibly comfortable at.
And, maybe a little bit narrative based, but 2010, Miguel Angel Jimenez, 2011, Alvaro Quiros, 2012, Rafael Cabrera Bello, 2017, Sergio Garcia, right? And Cabrera Bello was second to Garcia, to Willett, in 2016. So Spanish players have done, historically well in this course, on this part of the world. Like you say, he's had 3 really good starts here, very, very solid. And yes, he hasn't converted them into victories. I always think that Adrian Else is probably, an each way guy. He's a fancy playwright, but It's going to happen. Like eventually, like these guys just break through and probably when people aren't on. Like, and I listened back to my podcast last year, and I imagine I must have said exactly the same thing on the show. I actually picked him last year, and I was pretty keen for all the same reasons you are. Like, I think, like I said to you in previous podcasts before or shows before, take the guy in the field like this when you can get a number like a 66 or an 80, whatever it was earlier, compared to when he's going to be 33-1 and he's expected to win, because that's when I think the pressure's most on. Like if he's a favourite in Gran Canaria, like he's sitting there thinking, I should win this tournament. Like I am one of the best. All of a sudden he's behind three of the best players in the world, and he can just go, well, anything I do this week is a bonus. That might free him up to content.
Yeah, really looking forward to what he has this week. One other golfer I'm on in this range as well before I know we have a heavy dose of long shots. It was great to see Takumi Kanaya get back up there after we mentioned him last show where, Sony Open did not go in his favor, comes across other side of the world and really shows out. I don't think his finishing position last week of 25th is really reflective on how well he played. Waking up, early Thursday morning, I think he was 6 under, getting a chance to really make a run at Scott Jamieson's great first round. And we know Kanaya's sky high talent just hasn't broke through much, I guess, into a full contention, I would say, on these type of events just yet. However, that one of the best finishes of his career does come at this same course. So, he had that 9th place finish in January last year. So again, good vibes, good talent, coming off of a good last week, I think is enough. He might get a little bit of a push in the odds market. It was as low as 55 this morning. I saw some 75s and 80s. So I just think enough for me there with knowing what Kanaya has in his tank.
Yeah, I think, like I said to you last week, I think I wanted to wait for him to come back over to this tour rather than the PGA Tour. I think there's a lot of noise over there, a lot of expectation. These Japanese golfers, I think there's probably a massive media following when you go over to there, and I think you can escape a little bit of that coming to these events. I don't know if that's strictly true. I'm sort of guessing a little bit here, but I think once you've got kind of Hideki Matsuyama and you've got Nakajima, and there's all three of them in the field, and all of them are in contention. That's a lot of noise, right? You come back over here, do your thing, play the DP World Tour, 9th last year, good get right spot for Takumi Kanaya. Yep,
absolutely. Keep it going. Enough odds in there where an elite field at the top of the board gives us some good talents down here. I passed it over to you on a golfer who you pushed your outright pick a little bit last week, and hopefully continues to see some excellence for Shubhankar Sharma.
Yeah, I think he's been a little bit overlooked in the market, right? I wasn't particularly interested in. I didn't quite know whether he would, push on after that, second place. I don't know if that's kind of his peak. But when you look at his record here, it's, he's made 3 or 4 cuts. He's got 2 top 30 finishes. Kind of, a little bit disappointing, I suppose, if you look at it from a whole. But at least one of those years he was in bad form. And I just think that the way he hit the ball for a long period of time last year, I mean, we spoke about it for weeks, didn't we? Of Sharma just being excellent tee to green. And he didn't really look that shaky yesterday. Like, I thought he was pretty rock solid and made Thomas Pieters do everything that he had to do. Like, I thought it was when Hovland was going to put pressure on. Hovland disappeared. And Sharma just kind of stayed there. I know Cabrera Bello came with a flurry at the end, but it really felt like Sharma was the one that's going to push him. So I think it's probably more of a DraftKings play for me than an outright bet, because I think that maybe what he done last week is kind of the peak for now. But I thought he was just a little bit overpriced.
Yeah. It's so interesting to go off of 1 week samples, and it's not, we know the portfolio of what Sharma has, but can somebody like that keep it going to the point that their odds should be cut in half? And a lot of times the books don't take the risk of doing it. And I think they did with him. I think they did with Jamieson. Another golfer as well that kind of falls into that mix is Jeff Winter. Winter did get over the line, one time last year. Jason, very happy when that happened. But yeah, I think Jeff Winter is another one you can kind of expand on a little bit that kind of fits that bill too.
Yeah, I mean, look, he hasn't done anything massively here, but he shot 65 in round 3 in 2020. It kind of suggests to me that he can get around the golf course. He's been 10th and 7th in strokes gained approach his last two, 8th and 9th in tee to green. And, you know, 69th was pretty poor the week after he won, but 21st and 6th since has been fine. I just think that he was really solid last week. He had like 4 under par rounds, which was really hard on that golf course. T3 in Qatar back in 2020 suggests he kind of likes the part of the world. And I just thought that the 125 to 1 about him kind of suggests that people don't think it's going to carry on. But, you know, he was in 13th place after that 65 in round 3 in 2020, and then 27th last year, you know, with a 75 on day 2 as well, kind of suggests to me it could have been better. It's, I think now a better golfer, now a winner. We'll probably see his best finish there. He's already gone 37th to 27th. Could he get inside the top 10 and be a really good bet, you know, for a top 10 or maybe an each way? I think he's definitely got potential for that.
Yep, 100%. I'm going to go with another golfer here that we're both aligning on. I think makes a ton of sense. There's always somebody in the market that I love to see when a bet aligns to, and it's your third party now on Lost for Words, and Bradley Todd, arguably one of the best handicappers in the world, and he likes Ashen Wu with us this week. You know, we look at Ashen's kind of up and down history. You know, he's somebody who has won more than many kind of in this range, and kind of just has these flashes. And where those consistently have come is another, if we go back to kind of this location, you know, in this area of the world. I mean, he has multiple top 12 finishes 3 out of the last 4 times when he has played in this neck of the woods. He has had strong finishes, both at this course, the 9th and the 6th, the last 2 times we have seen him. And then he pops up with a strong Sunday, specifically that I noticed last week. His irons were exceptional on Sunday. Again, if you're looking into like, you know, a momentum type of thing, him and Arnas really stood out from me on those last ways finishes. But what else do you have on Ashen that gets us on him this week?
I mean, I'm just looking back to a tweet, and that's what I was doing while you were talking there. And I think it was a Saudi where he was like 700 to 1 on our exchanges over here. And I put him up basically on the fact that he plays the Middle East well. And he just finished tied 9th here. He'd finished tied 13th, I think, in that event, the Saudi event the week before or the year before. And I just think, you know, tied 16th, tied 12th his last 2, tied 12th at Abu Dhabi was a good showing, 14th in strokes gained approach. He's 5 out of 6 cuts made here with those 6th and 9th that you've already referenced there. We know what Ashen Wu is. Like, we know where he performs, and this is one of them. I mean, he was the 54-hole leader in 2020 and shot a final round 77 to kind of slip away. But even then was only 6th place. And then the 9th was a bit more of a backdoor and just a very solid week. But that's fine for me. Like, you know, even the 37th and the 24th are decent, you know, results for someone in this range. And it's just been a complete clip. Me and Brad spoke a lot about him earlier as well, like you said. So yeah, I'm pretty happy that the 3 of us align on him.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. He's the one that stood out to me right away when kind of combining a few of the different metrics we look at. 2 more picks, one for you, one for I, before we kind of do a little rundown of the values. I'll let you go first this time.
Very kind of you, because it's good because I've got something to say to you. Matthew Pavon. I mentioned earlier that there's links to the Portugal Masters, and I've got a load of stuff written down here as to why there's a link, but just go and look at the leaderboards and the winners at Portugal in this event, because rather than me wasting my breath. But he was 2nd in Portugal in 2021. He's been 11th and 24th here, and he was tied 5th after 36 holes in 2019. He's been 4th in tee to green the last 15 weeks, and I think 19th in strokes gained approach. That might be my really bad reading. But yeah, he's just been really solid tee to green and just likes his part of the world. I think he's an improver. I hope he's an improver. Otherwise, this could be a bit of a wasted bet. But at 200 to 1, 250 to 1, I'm happy to find out.
Do we have confirmation on his withdrawal last week? Because he was in the field Wednesday night and did not tee off. I know he got replaced late into the week. We had a couple of those. Any confirmation?
No, which means I haven't looked enough into it. But I imagine maybe it was because of COVID, because Bjerregaard was out with
Yeah,
COVID as well.
yeah.
That's
Biergard
what
was.
he was in isolation, Bjerregaard. I'm just hoping it's the same for Pavon, because if it's anything else, I assume he wouldn't be here.
Yeah, so I guess we'll do some digging into that if we get any answers. Just trying to pull up his Instagram, posted somebody tagged him in a video. It doesn't look like he's shown that he's anywhere in the area, but he probably was, judging as he literally did not withdraw until either Thursday morning or late Wednesday night. We've reached the point of the show where there's going to be one more selection. And before we get into it, I'll take this time to let you know that we have all our podcasts available in audio formats. You can find us at Daily Fantasy Sports, Picks and Bets, The Mix. Please rate, review, subscribe. It goes a long way to building up this platform, and always thankful for Pat and Mayo Media Network, our producer, for the time they put in the efforts to give us this lovely show that is backed around one man, and potentially one man only, getting a win in 2022. We need this. Guido Migliozzi, if you're listening, we need it. And no better time when it's 250 to 1. They're just hanging these juicy numbers down. I think he might have done it on purpose. He might have finished dead last on purpose last week to just give us a better number for the future. What are your thoughts on Guido?
My thoughts are we need to stage an intervention. It's been a while since he was good, Sky. It's been, what was it, the Dunhill Links, he was okay. Top 20 there. It's rough, dude. Like, he is in bad shape. And I remain positive with you all the time on Guido Migliozzi. And I hope he comes back. And I hope it's this week at 250 to 1. The one positive I will say about Guido Migliozzi is that we know that the upside of Guido Migliozzi is far exceeds 250 to 1. So if you're taking 250 to 1, absolutely fine. My concern, and the reason I feel like I need to stage an intervention, is I think you would back him at 25 to 1. And that's where I think we're running into trouble.
Well, I don't think we have to jump that hurdle just yet. We maybe have a little time to get there. I'll just remind people, he did open last year with a miscut. Comes back, 44th, 33rd. Then he finishes second. Should have won. I'm still mad at Antoine Rosner for making that putt. So, we have a second there. We have multiple seconds. Old Richard Bland out here, of course, doing what he did to Guido's heart and mind, that week. Guido also, don't forget, he finished fourth at the U.S. Open. He's in the Masters coming up here. So maybe this is a big play to end up,
well, this is where Danny Willett won before winning the Masters, right? So
this is the link.
So Guido Migliozzi did shoot a 67 in round 2 last year to help him towards a 44th place finish in this event, which was his first made cut of 2. Great, 250 to 1.
What about if they give us the double, the 250 now and the 250, to 300 for the Masters? Think they'd let me put that up this week?
I mean, yeah, I think they'd bite your hand off the 250 to 1 at the Masters.
Okay.
No, look, I no, in all seriousness, like he at 250 to 1, there's people down in that range that you just don't need to do too much digging. Like, I think a lot of the time you're betting him at short numbers last year. You had to justify it, and most of the time it was his ball striking. I think once you're this number, even like a Francesco Laporta's like exactly the same price. Daniel Gavin's, like people we know the upside of. Bjerregaard I was quite keen on before he pulled out last week. These guys here are all a big price. It might just be they're a big price for a reason. Yeah.
I mean, you can definitely.
I just tried to sell you on Matthew Pavon, and I didn't even remember that he pulled out. So
yeah, he could very well not be in the field. So that's a leg up for Guido. But
he will beat Matthew Pavon.
So if we dive through again, dumpster dive here at the bottom, players, these guys will probably end up likely to be in the 6Ks, high 6s, maybe low 7s. Golfers down here. Is there any shouts as you go through? I guess I'll do the in and out. We'll go in and out here. Christopher Broberg.
In.
Okay. Lucas Bjerregaard.
In.
Danny Van Tonder.
Out.
Alexander Levay.
No, out.
Daniel Gavins.
In.
Yeah, I think he's interesting too. Yox Kruitz.
Wait for South Africa.
Okay. Ross Fisher.
In.
Because this neck of the
For
woods
1 week
where,
only, birdie streaks.
Yeah. Yep. Man, it gets thin as we go down here.
Is Jackson Bra down there?
He will be. He'll for sure be. What is he? He's as long as 500 to 1. Yeah, I think he's intriguing. He's one to watch this year.
It's just when you've got a golfer that only struggles because of an injury, it's just when you back them, right? I mean, we saw it.
Yeah.
A complete extreme example of that is Andrea Pavan last week. Like,
he was coming
Jackson
up.
Bra.
He was coming up.
He
yeah.
was.
I think Pavan just one to just keep your eyes on if he's going to be back to health. You know, that was the issue. Somebody asked us last week, would you be betting, Pavan in the same way that we talked about? Who did they mention him with? Somebody. Haotong. It was Haotong.
Lee, yeah.
So kind of in that same neck of the woods.
I will make my public apology for writing off Andrea Pavan last week. I did tell the person if they like money, they shouldn't back him. And I hope they just ignore me when they're ahead with it anyway, because he played very well.
All right. We'll just get a couple more. Miguel Angel Jimenez.
Ow.
He played well on the Champions Tour last week.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't the Champions Tour.
Darren Fitchard, if we stay with the old guys.
Oh, he's probably someone that needs to get on the Champions Tour.
He would be amazing.
He would absolutely tear up the Champions Tour, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I'll tell you who's going to talk to the Champions Tour. I just want to go off topic a little bit. David Duval is on the Champions Tour now, right?
He's making a bunch of starts. Yeah.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge news.
With that, I got one. I guess two golfers here. We'll wrap it up. Josh Hill did play last week. We mentioned him. The amateur won at Yas Links to get in there. Has a decent pedigree. He came out really hot. If you notice, he was like 3 or 4 under early. Did not make the cut. Decent, again, amateur pedigree. But however, we have a better amateur in the field this week. Did you see, or are you familiar with Sam Bennett?
The only reason I'm familiar with Sam Bennett is because when I put in the 15-week current form tracker on the website, he was the only person that hasn't played in an event that counted. So that's the only thing I know about Sam Bennett. So hit me with your knowledge.
Okay, so he's the 5th best amateur in the world right now. He would be in line for a Korn Ferry Tour card, like some of those other guys, based off the PGA Tour view. With it. Last year, he had 4 victories, multiple other top 5 finishes. I remember him very well because I backed him actually in the event, no surprise, last year. He got into the Valero Texas Open because he had won the Old Waverly the week before at the same course. This is perfect. It's as good as you can get amateur. He probably shot 100 each day. It was miserable. So he did come back and finish his college the rest of the year strong. I have no idea how he got in this event. Literally none. And then he's out here taking selfies on the big Dubai stage with these guys. He was with all of these top players in this event. I'll tag you in it and show you. So he's got talent, really, really big talent. We'll probably see him on the Korn Ferry Tour later this summer. But someone just keep your eye on. He's probably going to be 6K. He's
in because he led the PGA Tour U Velocity Global Ranking. So that is why he is here. I guess a sponsor thing, right? But Texas A&M Senior, you just outlined everything that I don't need to say. Great. Akshay Bhatia, right? Won last week. Like these guys are ready to go. Sam Bennett sounds good to me. Yep. Maybe throw him in a little DraftKings sleeper, 1% at 6,100, I guess his price. So, all right, let's wrap it up with our betting cards here. Tom, you can go first. Yep. So for me, it's definitely Ian Poulter, 40 to 1 or 45 to 1. Lee Westwood, 70 to 1, 66 to 1. Jeff Winter, 125 to 1. Ashen Wu, 150 to 1. And Matthew Pavon at 200 to 1. I haven't decided yet what to do with Bernd Wiesberg. And Sharma, right? You were looking at him. And Sharma. Yeah, Sharma as well. That was one of your favorite plays. Cool.
For me on the DP World Tour, going back with my selections here, Ian Poulter, 40-1, Adri Arnaus, 66, Lee Westwood, 70, Takumi Kanaya, 75, Ashton Wu, 150, and Guido, take it to the window, Migliozzi at 250. If we have a lot of a line this week, Tom, I like
We
it.
do.
You're coming in hot. You're hitting winners. You know, you can't win every single tournament if you don't win the first. So we could rip the whole year, Tom.
If we could just alternate, that'd be great. And if it's Guido, that'd be great. Let's go Peters, Guido. Let's go. I don't know what event we've got next, but let's just chuck in Haotong again. This would be great if we can just get some triple-digit winners. Wasn't quite that with Thomas Peters last week, but Guido would be nice.
Amen.
It'll pay for your Ryder Cup.
Hey, it's very true. It's very true. Well, I appreciate you, Tom. Congrats again on the big winner.
Thank you, buddy. And
again,
you.
We appreciate everybody's support. If you can rate, review, subscribe, like our page on YouTube. Again, DP World, Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets. Looking forward to having you guys all along for another great year. Enjoy your afternoon.